My name is James Adonis and I'm an expert on employee engagement, which is basically just getting employees to love doing what they're doing. And I do that predominantly through writing. So I've got a business blog with Fairfax, which is one of the most commented on blogs in the country. I write books. I've got my third coming out very shortly, and I speak and train on the topic quite a bit. I started email marketing about 5 years ago as a way of building a database and a following, because people knowing about you is one thing, but people actively following you is a whole separate issue and far more beneficial for sales. And so I started sending out a newsletter to just, I think, 20 people on my contacts list. Those 20 I got from networking events that I'd attended, and from that it slowly built up to 5,500 today. I think the first key is to write well. I subscribe to about 50 different newsletters, and about 45 of those are crap. So they just say the same thing over and over again. They're uninspiring, they're unoriginal, and so there's no reason for somebody to forward those on to somebody else unless they happen to trigger some kind of emotion in somebody that gets them to think, wow, this is so good, someone else needs to benefit from it. So in the first year that I was writing those newsletters, I wasn't abiding by that rule. I was just writing the stock standard academic type of newsletter that would hardly get forwarded on. But then about 3.5 years ago I changed it to include analogies and stories and humour and far more my personality than anything else, and now it gets forwarded around all the time. The first tip I would say was, can you write? Can you write? And the best people to get feedback from are not those that love you because they're biased. So I would ask just general people for feedback on how well you're writing. And then be very careful who you ask, because it could be that writing is not a skill that you've got, and that by writing an email newsletter it could do more damage to your brand than good. So perhaps you might do a video that you send out as email marketing, or perhaps you might send out an email that has links to other articles, or you ask permission from other really good writers to publish their articles, or whatever it might be. So I just wouldn't feel compelled to always write your own stuff, especially if you're not a good writer. Yeah, I'd like to get the database up to 100,000 people receiving my newsletter every fortnight. I think that'll happen via a number of ways. First is by people forwarding it on. Second is by releasing more and more books that continue to sell high numbers of copies. That brings in subscribers. People like my writing on Fairfax. They generally tend to jump on my website and subscribe that way. People see me present at conferences and events. If they like what they hear, they'll jump online and subscribe to my newsletter. So I think it's realistic to reach 100,000. Probably not this year because it's November, but I think within 5 years it should be possible. Yeah, every time the newsletter database reaches 1,000 numbers, so say 4,000 or 5,000 and so on, I'll offer people a competition where they get free membership passes to a development program in return for forwarding the newsletter on to somebody that they know and then copying in my email address as well. What that does is it promotes the development program, so it gets extra sales in regardless. It increases the number of subscribers to my newsletter because more people find out about it, but also amongst the community of people who follow me now through that newsletter, it almost builds momentum in that they want to see more subscribers as well. So, oh wow, James is now at 4,000, or James is now at 5,000, and I think a lot of them want you to succeed if they like what you write. If they jump onto my website, which is jamesadonis.com, so JAMESADONIS.com, and click on With Compliments, they can subscribe there and get ebooks for free as well, valued at $100. Which, by the way, is a great way to get subscribers onto a newsletter, is by offering something for free, but something of value. So if people subscribe to mine, they get 7 free ebooks. But if all you've got is just a little box saying join my newsletter. There's really no incentive there for somebody to join unless you're somebody humongous like Edward de Bono or someone else, or Madonna, or someone huge. But if you're not, then offering something in return and promising people things like you'll never sell their email address or details helps as well. Sure, the new book is called Corporate Punishment, Smashing the Management Cliches for Leaders in the New World. It's being released globally in February through Wiley Publishing, and it just looks at the top 47 things that managers say in the corporate world, which is just blatantly incorrect. So things like the customer is always right. No, they're not. There's no I in team. Yes, there is. Perception is reality. No, it's not. The devil's in the details. No, it's not. Pick the low-hanging fruit? No, because actually fruit pickers always start at the top because that's the ripest, and so on. So it goes through all of that stuff and smashes it all for being incorrect. Awesome.